March 15th, 2022, and you're listening to the Beer Temple podcast.
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.
Hello and welcome to the Beer Temple podcast. I'm your host, your co-host, Chris Quinn. I'm joined by your other co-host, Mike Shalal. What's up?
Not much, man. How are you?
Doing pretty well.
Good.
Just getting ready for the St. Patrick's Day madness, which for me is like a 3-week, 4-week long thing.
You're Irish.
Yes, that's why it's a 3 or 4 week long thing.
Amazing.
Yeah, I get started.
It's like a birthday month for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Did you do anything this weekend? Any of the parade festivities?
No, we had an event with Dark Matter, Half Acre
Breakfast.
yes, which
donuts.
Yeah, it was like a donut and beer pairing.
Nice. 4
donuts, 4 beers, and then Dark Matter was there,
Causing a ruckus.
Pouring some coffee, stuff like that, and started at 11. I think we put up a post on social media.
Nice.
Maybe that'll come up later.
Nice.
Maybe.
Good,
I don't know.
Good pre-segue. I liked that.
So
You're
how many people do you think would show up? And I'm already goosing expectations a little bit. But.
Yeah, now that you've prompted me, I've talked to other people that don't know that I do this podcast, and they told me that their friends were going to it. So a lot probably.
Yeah.
12?
Right. So when we opened, I think there was a line of 40 people at the door, which I had no idea because I was sitting at the bar I think I was probably doing
just housing
social media post.
Donuts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The donuts had just arrived. None of them were portioned out or anything like that. And the line was from the bar all the way back into the Fox room where we often record the podcast rather, when we have important guests in. When we don't, we have them in this back garage area.
We've never had important guests because we've never done video for this podcast.
But no, a podcast.
Okay.
But anyway, no, I'm joking.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, we were slammed.
That's like when craft beer was cool. That's how many people would show up just to drink beer.
Yes. I was very surprised, especially when it's on parade day and it was like 20 degrees out. It was
very cold this weekend.
So that's what happened this weekend.
Nice. Took
me by surprise. It's been a while since we've been in the weeds like that. So
probably feels a little good.
Yeah, it was good, but it gets a little too crowded for me. So once everything was out of,
you gotta hate when people want to give you their money.
Yeah, Max and I just kind of hid out in the bottle shop, and it was like too crowded.
All right.
Nice. But I couldn't hide in the office. That was too antisocial. So
I you hid in the bottle shop.
I stood in the bottle shop for a while until it calmed down.
Right.
Made sure that they didn't want me. The bartenders and everything. Like, do you need anything? No, go away. Perfect.
I
was hoping you would say
Trained
that.
them well.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
But really, what it's been keeping me busy is all the corporate St. Patty's Day stuff.
Mm-hmm. I'm sick of big St. Patty's Day, personally.
Mm-hmm.
Just corporate St. Patrick's Day is always shoving St. Patrick's down our throat.
Yep.
I'm just kidding.
The war against St. Patrick's.
Yeah, there's a war on St. Patrick.
The war on St. Patrick, yeah.
Joey's really Italian.
Yeah. So we have, I think, 8 events tomorrow, and then I think another 6.
These are tasting events that you do with people as like part of their fun work environment is that they get to listen to you talk about Irish beer and whiskey for
they pay me for
an hour. That's wild.
I know. Believe me, I'm aware more than most how insane that is, but that's the truth. So it's like probably our most stressful month of the year for the past couple of years has been
just
this
like
past
most businesses. March is the big month.
The big month, baby.
Yeah,
March Madness.
Yeah.
But it'll be nice on Thursday once it's over.
Yeah.
Once we have the last event, I guarantee you I will be going. I don't know. Probably like Chief O'Neill's.
Maybe to drink a couple milds on handful.
Maybe,
maybe. I don't know.
A modern day beer that was really is meant to kind of evoke the old fashioned cask ways. That being a Guinness. Mm-hmm. How are you, by the way?
Good.
Yeah, we should get to. We have a whole room full of people
room,
here.
Yeah, so I got it.
Yeah,
people hear about me every week. Let's let these lovely people.
Introduce
them.
Yeah, we have some guests. So why don't you introduce our guests?
Do we want to do?
It's not a round table.
Order of seniority.
Doesn't need to be.
What order are we going? Alphabetical.
Any order you want. Too much pressure. This is new. You're trailblazing now.
Way too much pressure for me. Let's go order of seniority just for old time's sake, because I'm not a creative person.
Okay.
And as Doug Veliky pulls the mic towards himself, knowing he is the king of the podcast. Doug, how you doing?
Hey guys, thanks for having me back.
Nostra Douglas, that's what he used to be called.
Nostra Douglas.
Please.
What's up, Doug? What's new?
Oh, not too much. Things had been crazy at the brewery, but I feel like a lot of big milestones just got checked off. So feeling lighter, and I actually fired up my old blog for the first time in many, many months.
Beer Crunchers?
Beercrunchers.com is going to have a post going up tomorrow. So by the time this posts, it'll be 6 months old. But,
yes, he knows.
It was actually inspired. So I got a question on TikTok back in like January that I wanted to answer, and someone said, "How come we can't find much cask ale in the United States?" And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. I could probably come up with 3 or 4, decent reasons to explain it." And then you guys on the show, within like a few weeks, it came up of like, why did English styles never catch on here, or something like that,
or why they go away? Because everybody
why they went
away, right?
Exactly. So that just got me thinking of like what I think some of us are maybe wishfully thinking for, or maybe think actually has a chance to happen. And it's basically a post. I worked with Chris. I worked with Zach from the Olympic Tavern.
I saw him today.
Oh, did you? Cool.
Yeah, in Rockford.
Part of it is like making the case for why English styles could come back, and how cask beer can be like the way to activate it in the on-premise and make it exciting and different every Friday. So I'm calling it Firkin Friday. And
Friday, you're going on.
That's the name of the post. And then it ends with 7 recommendations from Chris and Zach to breweries who want to sell them a Firkin. So advice for those breweries. So there's 7 tips in it, which is how it ends. And
can you give us a teaser for someone who's read it and needs to be reminded 6 months later?
Which tip did they not want you to know about?
Yeah, exactly.
Like if it's a
listicle,
which tip will blow people's minds?
Yeah, you won't believe. Which one won't they believe?
Tip number 6 will blow your mind.
I don't know. I think they're all pretty reasonable. One of them is Zach. One of them is Zach saying, "Please,
way to pick up the ball and run with it."
Yeah. You did not. Yes, and Doug.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yes, and Zach had one that was, "Do not try to sell me a cask of a Imperial Stout or a triple IPA."
Oh, that's a good one.
He gives the reasons why.
I didn't even consider that because
none of yours even closely overlapped. They all kind of. I got 7 unique ones from.
It's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an excellent bit of advice that I don't even, which obviously that's the case, but I didn't even occur to me to mention that one. So I'm glad Zach did. But he's a fan of putting beer in suboptimal containers for serving. So,
yes,
so cask, that's right up there. It's right in line with his. Yeah, way of thinking.
His favorite, yeah.
But thanks for coming on, Doug. I guess we didn't mention that we're doing a special.
Yes, this episode
special episode.
Kind of like a spotlight on social media and beer.
Yeah, one we've been meaning to do for years.
Yeah.
I mean, literally before the show came back around, we were going to do one. So.
And we're doing it.
We're doing it.
You're welcome, everyone.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You'll never believe tip 7 that. I genuinely don't know who's next in order of seniority now. I've dug myself a hole. I don't. We're gonna go in reverse alphabetical order then.
Yeah.
So
no,
Mike Zoller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chicago beer on the social media.
Social media, yeah, it's kind of perfect. No,
how you been? What's up?
I've been good. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Things have been good. It's been a social media week. The porch drinking Instagram got hacked this week.
Awesome. Were you trying to sell NFTs?
I don't know what we were doing, but you get a message from somebody in Turkey trying to sell our account, so we're working through that.
Okay.
So tip 2-factor. Use it. right now, my next piece will be on cream ales.
Nice.
They're trendy-ish right
Sure.
now, so we're seeing a few more pop up. So we're talking some cream ale with Midwest Coast as
Cool.
one. Obviously, Off Colors is coming back. Beer for Ball Games just dropped, and Smiley Brothers has one. They were they reached out to me. It's like, hey, we have one. Excellent, good to know.
Nice.
And then Open Outcry, they always have one on tap. So we're talking cream ales there.
Very cool.
And then sometime in the summer, I'll actually be taking a step back from porch drinking for a little bit. My wife is due with our first baby, so
Congratulations.
thank you. So we're gonna focus on that, focus on the kid, and I'll still be in the not day to day of porch drinking, but helping out with probably our social media, but not writing as much.
Great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And then I genuinely don't know again, Chris. Who do you
Well, now we've got
it's a tie, right?
Two
Or
ties, but ties. This has all been established. So ties go to the person in studio. So we have two first-time guests. First-time guests introduce themselves. Them's the rules. So you're up.
I'm up. My name is Wally List. I am currently
Hilarious. Look at that running joke of List. What's your real last name? No, I'm just kidding.
I am currently the manager and buyer at Bottles and Cans Edgebrook, the second location. We opened about 6 months ago. We're the first liquor store in Edgebrook in 70 years. So
What?
Yeah, we're just figuring out what the neighborhood wants and just getting ready for the busy summer ahead, and everything's going well so far.
Nice. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on.
Very excited to be here.
Yeah.
Big fan of the pod. So
Okay. Long-time listener, first-time panelist. Yeah.
Congratulations. Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome to the
it's an honor.
whatever this is.
Yeah.
And then zooming in, we have Chalonda White, Afro Beer Chick.
She's got to introduce herself.
Oh,
Mike.
sorry.
You
Yeah,
messed
you
it
got to
up.
introduce yourself.
You botched it.
Yeah,
Go for it.
My bad.
Well, I'm Chalonda White, known as Afro Beer Chick across all the social medias. I basically drink a lot between the beer and the bourbon. I also have a bourbon podcast along with the beer podcast, and just kind of drink my way through my travels and document it as much as possible.
Nice. Well, very succinct and well done. Thank you. Well, thanks for zooming in.
Mm-hmm.
She had another Zoom meeting that she had to be on. I hope I didn't blow up your spot, but earlier on. So she's like, I was like, wow, we have to start scheduling people. So thanks for
more
making
than 2
time.
days out. Maybe we'll get
Exactly.
one day.
Exactly. Same day. It's all good.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is talk a little bit about social media. It's a influence, obviously, on beer and the beer industry, stuff like that. But before, I think you demanded, Mike, that we go around and ask everybody a beer that they've had lately that they've enjoyed, or a beer that they're looking forward to enjoying.
That's right.
Who would like to go first? Do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. I was up in Michigan yesterday brewing a collaboration with a brewery called Seeds.
Oh, awesome.
With Ryan.
What kind of beers do they brew?
They brew a lot of lager and saison, and so we made a little.
No milds or anything like that?
They do make mild. They had a dunkel on as well.
Oh.
We made a little 3.5%, or will be 3.5% right now. It's probably not. Mixed culture saison fermented in wine barrels. That was 30% malted corn. The idea was kind of to be everyone tells this romantic story of in Wallonia they were making this beer for the farm workers. We're well, what would that be in America? It'd probably be corn based.
Yeah.
So this low ABV,
That's true.
pretty hoppy corn based mixed culture beer. But while I was up there, he had a beer conditioning in his lagering tanks made with this Edelweiss Pilsner, which is this varietal of malt that Caleb at Sugar Creek has got from a seed bank in Europe. Specifically because it was grown in a climate that matches Indiana, where he's growing barley. Grew a small patch of it, saved those seeds, replanted them next year, grew an acre of it, saved those seeds, and now has it to a point where he can do commercial batches with this very old world malt that hasn't been used to make beer, and that was used to make beer but hasn't been used to make beer in a very, very long time. Like
Okay.
old school, under modified, no genetic breeding to it. You gotta like decoct it. But it makes this like super interesting lager unlike anything I've ever had. And he's been doing did some with Dovetail, did some with like Cohesion out in Colorado.
Goldfinger too, right?
Goldfinger.
Yeah,
and then
I had it.
Seeds has one that's like in the lagering tank right now, and it's like a super interesting.
I think he had to triple decoct it.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's delicious. It's like 3.8% alcohol. Nice and hoppy. It's like a beautiful little beer.
Nice.
I don't know what it's called. But it was. Go there, get the Edelweiss pills if you're in the area.
You should make
That
it
wasn't
something
called
social media-y, like,
Yeah,
or
it was
listicle
called,
like.
yeah. You won't. I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know. It was delicious, and I'm sure they'll have it on soon and for a long time.
Sweet.
Yeah, if you're in the New Buffalo area.
When aren't I?
You're there all the time. It's
Yeah.
like 45 minutes away.
That's true. Awesome.
Yeah.
Who's going next? Who wants to talk about a beer?
I can jump in.
Go for it.
I got a single can of a collaboration between Firestone Walker and Russian River, Stevo Pills. I think they had made it one other time, maybe 3-4 years ago. And it was a Keller Pills, so they did their best to mash up Pivo and STS Pills from Russian River. So they made this one be a Keller Pills. It was cool. I went on their website as I was drinking it actually to see what kind of background they shared. And I forgot that Firestone had brewed Pliny the Elder for a while for Russian
That's
River
right.
when I forget where they were moving or something like
when
that.
the new brewery's coming on or something.
Yeah, and so there was like a really cool write-up of why they made this beer, because like right now, like I'm sure both of those breweries have their hands full, but to kind of take the time out to do this, they brewed it at the Firestone Propagator. I really like their brewer, Sam. He's very active on Twitter, and just like myself and you, Chris, he loves to talk about beer styles and what's popular and the marketing colliding with the technical side. And so I enjoy his work and was excited to get my hands on that beer, and it was excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. I just had some. I had the Pliny versus canned Pliny, which I thought it was the same, but you informed me, Doug, that they are not the same beer. And when you taste them, they definitely aren't the same beer. The canned version and the bottled version.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I guess different hop regimens. I would guess, if I don't know, but I think different hops too. It certainly tastes like different hops.
Is the can it's the silver can? Of
Yeah,
wine, right? Okay.
Yeah, and it says like 2-stage double dry hopped or something like that. It says on the can. Had both of those canned or packaged within a day of one another. I think of like the 5 people who are drinking it, I think at least 4, if not all 5, preferred. Which one do you think they preferred?
Old school Pliny.
Old school
bottle.
Pliny.
Yeah.
Old school Pliny.
First batch is always better.
Yeah. Yeah. It was great.
Why would you learn a process and like tweak a recipe the first time? That's when you nail it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then you should just go on to try something different then.
Yeah.
And then again
Next.
and again and again.
Yeah.
Never come back. If you come back, it's a sign of failure. If you rebrew.
It's a sign of weakness.
Yeah, if you ever rebrew something. Cool. I'm trying to think
It's
of
just
this
so many heads shaking and
nodding. It's called nodding when it shakes
when it
in
goes
that
side
direction.
to side. Yeah. Yeah. Nodding side to side.
Exactly. I'm trying to think if anyone else wants to jump in. Is there a beer that I'm looking forward?
You just said
to
you had
having?
2 different Plinies.
Oh, well, those were good. Okay, those were my 2.
Nice.
There you
I
go.
thought that's what you were
Thank
doing.
you.
Yeah.
No, I was just
Nailed it.
commenting. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm glad you specified, what have you been drinking and what are you excited to
Yes.
drink? Because Dovetail Saison, I have not had it yet.
I just heard about that today.
I didn't
Very
even
excited
hear about this.
Very excited about it. I will go in with the highest of expectations, and I'm
Yes.
sure they will be met. But I'm very excited for that one. And then what I drank recently was in Greenfield, Indiana, where my mother-in-law lives. Very small town, about 45 minutes east of Indianapolis. Small brewery there called Wooden Bear. They brewed a cream ale called Maze Runner that I thought was really, really well done. In a small town, you kind of never know what you're getting into. I think we were there for one of the basketball games, drank 5 of them, and that's all I wanted. They had a really great tap list, but that's all I drank the whole day. It was great.
MAIZE runner, I assume.
Correct,
right?
yes.
Puns.
Yeah. Puns. They love them, folks.
They sell.
All right, the newbies are up. Go for it.
I was at Cruz Blanca this weekend.
Nice.
And always a fan of their offerings. I tasted, they had this grisette on tap. It was a mixed culture, like 4.5%. It was a beautiful beer. Just nice acidity, really great effervescence, really easy drinking. And then paired it with a little 5-ounce pour of their barrel-aged coffee blonde ale. Also delicious. Some of the best, my favorite barrel-aged beers that don't get as much love, it seems. But
Coffee blonde ales?
yeah. So, no, just Cruz Blanca's barrel-aged program in general.
Yeah,
Shout out to
He's
Jacob.
going real deep.
They
He's
do a
going.
great job.
He's
Yeah.
digging in the crates real deep for his styles.
Hashtag barrel-aged coffee blonde ale.
Both of them are great.
Exactly. All right, and Chalonda, how about you?
I'm going to say I've been really excited about the collaboration that Haymarket did with the residency program, the Chicago Uncommon Ale that brought in Black Horizon, Funky Town Brewing, let's see, Moore's Brewing, Turner House, Jay West, and Sam Ross to brew this beer. The Chicago Uncommon Ale is to represent the Chicago bricks that were used to rebuild the Chicago city after the Great Fire. This beer is straight to the point, is easy to drink. Sometimes you just want that old school style type beer with no frills, and it's crisp, it's clean, and now it's become one of my favorites at Haymarket.
Wow, what's the name of the beer?
Chicago Uncommon Ale.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, super
Interesting.
cool program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to go. I want to add my actual beer now. Is that okay? I mean, I had the Pliny. It was good. But I forgot. So this Saturday, Jesse from the owner, the founder of Dark Matter, was in the house. He likes to have a good time. He started.
Is your beer chartreuse?
Yeah. So there might have been some chartreuse before he started just ordering beers for anybody who wanted them, and then started ordering Cantillon bottles and just pouring them out. And he poured for me a little bit of the latest batch of Mamouche that came out, and it is one of the best Cantillons I'd ever drank. It was amazing. I don't know if we have any more bottles, but I will make sure that I get at least one of them because it was that good. It was a really special bottle of Lambic, which is great, which is the second bottle of amazing Lambic I've had this year. I mean, the Gewürztraminer from Tilken was
Wildly good.
one of my beers, is one of my top beers of the year, and this one is just amazing.
Forgive
well.
my lack of nerdery, but which one is the Mamouche? What is the
Elderflower, I
Elderflower.
believe. Yeah, but it was like just
Elderflower's amazing beer ingredient?
yeah, it was awesome, and it had this like a finish with just a tiny bit of like this peppery quality to it, and was awesome.
Yeah.
It was great. I could be wrong. It might not even be elderflower. I don't know. It was
Yeah,
great. It was
cool.
just Mamouche.
Yeah, it was Mamouche.
Yeah.
Nice.
So anyway, all right. So that's out of the way. We don't need to listen to Serge. He's just gonna talk. He's just gonna say, "I love
just goes
Bigger
on,
Fader."
On,
You know,
on, fader.
we get it.
Yeah.
So yeah, for those of you, if you ever meet Serge, don't ever ask him what beer he's been into.
never stop talking.
Yeah, unless you've got an hour to
Yeah.
kill. So where should we begin, Mike? Let's kick it off. Let's get down to the meat and potatoes, as Brian Kirby would say.
The meat and potatoes. Yeah. So we wanted to put together a panel of people who have like varied experience in social media and beer, right? So we've got people that have run social media for breweries, for stores, for personal accounts, for just beer accounts, for journalism accounts, things like that. So yeah, and get like all perspectives and kind of talk about what works, what doesn't, why you do it. I think that's the first question. Like, what do you want to get out of your social? So say what your social media accounts are, I guess, and that are beer related, and then what do you want to get out of each one, and is it different, or and what is it personally that you want to get out of?
And I am personally interested in the content of this one because I feel like I'm a blind man stumbling around on social media, so I'm very
I think you're
interested
underselling
what
yourself.
people-
You're one of the OGs. We got to talk about you being like a
Then
tasting beer in a basement.
Then maybe I'm let's say I'm Mr. Magoo.
Yeah.
I'm like about to walk off a high rise, and just when an I-beam swings into place and I just walk across it. That's kind of how I feel about it. But anyway, I digress.
So let us know like what your accounts are, and then if you have different goals for each of them, or what got you into doing it, if it's a personal account, and whoever feels most comfortable starting, jump right in.
Sure, I'll jump in here. So Instagram and TikTok, it's at Chicago Beer. Lucky to get that on Instagram years ago.
Yeah, for real.
And Twitter is just my name, at Mike Zoller. And it started really for me, I had a personal Instagram. I was never posting on it. I don't post personal photos. And then I started, I was drinking beer, writing about beer, and I started taking pictures of it. And I was like, let's change it up. And just started posting those photos, and then started pairing them with my articles. So that's where the initial kind of drive people to our website, let them know what we're writing about, give them like a little teaser in the Instagram photo, a quote or something, and then have them go over to porch drinking. And we still do that. Now it's kind of turned into something completely a little bit different. We're still doing the articles, but now it's just kind of fun. And you can poke fun at the beer industry. You can definitely give highlights to local breweries here. I think that's something that I really want to do. Is it's amazing that sometimes breweries will be like, hey, how much does it cost for you to post a photo of our beer? I'm like, absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Like, I'm not in this for money at all. I want to showcase the new beers. I love Midwest Coast. They've been, great to work with. They'll send me beer every so often, and I'll give honest feedback about it too. Because I feel like if you start taking money, not to go down a rabbit hole, but if you start taking money and all that, there's pressure.
Sure.
And when someone's like, well, we'll need you to post this many photos, and then we'll have to review your copy, and then I'm like, no, that's not how this works. Mm-hmm. This is just me having fun, taking photos. Then TikTok and Reels come into it, and now it's a shift to video content, and that is a whole nother thing. That could be education, comedy, anything else about Chicago beer, breweries, and that's just kind of where it's gone from there. It's been fun, and again, there's. I have a full-time day job. This is purely for me, just to kind of have a little fun. I think the pandemic helped that too, right? You're stuck at home for 2 years. You have plenty of time to create content.
Right.
And my wife was probably happy. He's downstairs doing something. I didn't want to know what he's doing.
Yeah.
I'm upstairs. He's not bothering me. We're good.
He's being quiet. It's fine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nice. I would like to
I'm going to jump in here.
Absolutely.
It's like Mike, I started as for fun. I think for me, just a bit of a different perspective. I was looking for other African-American people to connect with in the beer community, because when I was really started getting into beer about 11 years ago, I couldn't find any. And since about 2017, I found there was a whole community. So for me, that was really why I really started the Afro Beer Chick accounts on all of the social medias. It kind of evolved to something I didn't expect it to. And like Mike, I don't do this for money. I do this for sheer fun, and because I want to be able to talk crap whenever I feel like it.
Right,
I don't want to have to adhere to anybody else's rules. My mouth is so big. I don't want anybody to silence what I have to say. So Afro Beer Chick, for me, it just became this thing like, hey, I have a perspective on beer, and not many people, at one point in time will understand the fact, hey, there are Black people in beer, and it was like we were unicorns at one point. Now it's like here we are. So it's been fun, and sometimes I have to kind of go there and call people out, and I'm kind of just waiting for that moment where cancel culture comes for me, and I can laugh back like, "Hey, I'm doing this for free, so I really don't care."
Right? Yeah, that's true.
I tell people all the time, whatever you feel you can't say on your platform, tell me, I'll say it, as long as I agree with it.
I'm gonna remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
We'll send some stuff your way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sure.
There you go.
Well, I got my start in this beer social media with Illuminated Brewworks. When we started the brewery, we didn't have a tap room or a space for people to come, and we had a brand with a pretty big personality. So,
for sure.
Social media became a great platform for us to build the brand. Also market what we were releasing and kind of communicate what we wanted. Where you could buy our beer, and it really helped build the business. Currently, at Bottles and Cans, I run social media for both the accounts, and it's nice to be able to support all the brands that I like, as opposed to just one brewery. Mm-hmm. And there's some future goals with outside of just pictures of new arrivals, trying to get behind the scenes and talk to the people and see the personalities and the stories behind the beers, and the brands that we love, and just kind of a little window into just the production side of things too.
Blind guessing games. That's where it's at.
Well, I gotta say,
that one's for free. You're welcome.
I've been wanting to do blind tastings, but I will not because the Beer Temple. I have too much respect for that blind tasting.
Check. That's why I do it, so no one else can do it.
Yeah, that's why you started it.
Yeah, just to take things, to take good ideas away from other people.
Yeah, right. That's an interesting way that you think about something that you were the first to do. Yeah,
everything that I do.
Yeah.
Now that I do it, no one else can.
I created this so I could take it from other
I've ruined
people.
it for everyone else.
It's a really generous spirit you have.
Thanks.
Doug, what about your numerous platforms?
So I'm at Beer Aficionado on Instagram and TikTok. Then I have a blog, beercrunchers.com. So Beer Cruncher is my Twitter handle. Twitter is the one I use, I guess, or I shouldn't say I use it the least, but I probably take the least seriously. But Instagram and TikTok is where I spend a lot of my time. I also oversee Revolution Brewing social media. I don't handle the day-to-day. I have for periods of time, up to maybe a year, but that's quite a few years ago. But oversee it, but generally hands off. I got involved in this. It kind of started back in 2012 when I applied for a job internally at the company I worked for and didn't get it, and felt that the reasons I didn't get it were very political. And it's not that I wasn't the most deserving, but other forces caused me to not get it, which was frustrating. And then something similar happened. And so at that point, I decided to start this account. I had also been many years before that laid off from a job, and I felt like I had very little control over things. And I was like, I wanted to start this second thing. I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I was also an accountant and had gotten very conservative money-wise, and just also never had the guts to take a leap, or just didn't have that magical idea of something I wanted to do. So I just wanted to start something that, kind of like you guys have said, it wasn't about the money. It was just something I wanted to start something else that I could control, I could make the decisions on, and nobody could tell me no. I had gotten the bug from craft beer. I worked in beer distribution, kind of, and I had a lot of exposure to beer. So I decided to start an Instagram account with no real plan, but just this place I wanted to start sharing my love of beer, which evolved over time, led to other job chances to get into beer that didn't work out. That every time that happened, it would cause me to add another layer to what I was doing. So that's how the blog came later, was me continuing to get frustrated that all these opportunities that I thought I deserved and thought I had earned weren't working out, and me trying to create things that would potentially lead to me having more control over my destiny, I guess. And it eventually worked out. After probably 3 years of doing it, it was 2016 when Don, friend of the show, who I had never met, followed my accounts, read my blog when he was at Revolution, and the opening for their finance position came about. He kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, man."
I know Rob Todd. Anyway,
and that's how I got into the industry. And then it's just something that it became so normal for me to do this, and I loved doing it so much, and met so many cool people and had all these cool opportunities come about from making content. And just the feedback that you get from people, hey, I love that video you posted, or I'd never thought about beer this way, and because of the way you put it to help me understand it, that just for me, it doesn't, maybe this isn't the case for everybody, but for me, that just fuels me to make another piece of content in the next one. So I've just kind of kept it going, figured out ways to do fundraising for cool charities, and then it's just this thing I keep going, and it's always I still do not work for myself. It's this thing that I get to control and do and don't have to ask for permission for. And as someone who grew up as a kid entrepreneur, it's important for me to have something like that. And maybe it'll be something someday, or just directly or indirectly, but it's just this other thing that's important to me to have that's mine.
That's awesome. Chris, you're not going to get out of this. You've been in the social media game for as long as anyone I know, and specifically in the beer social media game. I don't know how many people listen to this go all the way back, but you started doing review videos, Facebook,
yes,
well before the store even, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I used to watch those YouTube videos.
Yeah,
probably
I've watched
2011.
I've watched a lot of them actually, and they were they helped shape the way that I approach and look at craft beer. And
Interesting.
How has it evolved for you? Because you don't do day-to-day things for Beer Temple so much anymore on the Instagram or Facebook. But how did it start with that? And then how did you parlay that into like actually it's a store with the same name as your social media accounts?
Sure. Completely different approach to what everyone has said.
Sure.
So I started out with a video review with a slant towards education, I would say. And that was me already knowing I wanted to open up the Beer Temple and trying to prime the pumps a little bit and kind of get my name out there because I was not in the industry at all. And then the store got delayed, so I was priming the pumps for a long time.
A lot of overprimed.
I kind of flooded the engine a little bit.
Had to pull it a couple times.
And then, so that's how that started. That became more popular than I had thought. It was inspired. I think I've been on an interview with you, Doug, about that, by Gary V's wine library videos. And I just saw how he would, at that time, you could really get to the top pretty quickly by just
It was a Wild West.
pumping out content. So I would try to do, I think, 3 a week, 3 videos per week. And I realized one thing that I learned then that I've never, that I've always made part of what I do in social media is be able to just start, stop, no editing, and just go, including the show.
Yeah.
It's just, that's how, because I used to have to do editing and I hate editing. So, so I did that. And then following that, personal use, I was not a big.
But so in that phase, what you wanted to get out of it was get your name out there, let people know that you're like kind of opening a store, put you out there as like an educational and kind of beer evangelist, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I would not have done it if I was not opening the store. I will make that clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then personal life wasn't really that big into social media when it was new, like when Facebook was new and or what was MySpace before that or something like that. I guess it was interesting or intriguing. I got involved with Twitter a little bit, but kind of dropped out of that. Just too many arguments and stuff like that. Yeah. But it was just like promote the business. This is how you advertise now.
Right. And that's something that like I think is forever going to be tied to like the growth of craft beer, right? Is that social media existed, so there couldn't be 9,000 breweries without social media and being able to directly market to consumers, right? So
yeah, so that's like what I was trying to get out of it. I'm sorry if that's not. If anything, the most altruistic thing I've done or just like is this radio show. This is the one where I don't really promote it much, really at all. I don't link it to the store much. What I've been doing more lately is just mostly because Doug's been hounding me that I never like promote it at all. So I'm like, okay, I have a little now reminder every week, like, put something up about the latest episode, at least mention it exists, stuff like that. That was more just me listening to other beer podcasts and like shouting at them to myself and being like, that's not right, that's wrong. And then Edmar just being like, you ever want to do this? And I said, yes, I will do it every single week on Thursday nights if you let me. And he's like, okay. And then however many years later, we switched to Tuesdays, but that's it.
Do you consider this social media?
I don't know.
Just made media?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think we had this little bit of this conversation last week before the show.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But this is the only one that isn't like meant to, I guess,
directly
drive awareness of like the brick and mortar. I mean, maybe of the brand or something. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I run the Iswas Instagram account, obviously, and we have a Facebook, but it just co-posts Instagram accounts, and we have the Twitter name, but I don't post on that at all. But, I mean, of course, I want to educate people about Saison and specifically our beers and my approach to making these beers and why they're, special and why they should be considered. But ultimately, that's to drive people to want to purchase the beer. Hopefully, that's through genuine means of being like, I worked really hard on this. I did something that I didn't see anyone else doing, and put great care into it. But ultimately, yeah, it's I wouldn't do it if it wasn't to get people to have more awareness of our brand and eventually purchase beer from us. So very selfish means.
I mean, I think for people who run business accounts,
Yeah.
I mean, to say that
Right.
anything
Well,
other than that.
There's levels, right? Like on one level, I want to teach people about Saison and how I think about it, and specifically let them know more about myself and the brewery, because it's mostly just me. But that's to drive a different connection that will hopefully then at some point lead to a sale.
Yeah. I mean, I guess so. And there's
Both
different
can be
ways
true
to do
at the
it.
same time,
right.
too,
There's
right?
one that's like, this is interesting. Go to this place and buy it.
Yeah.
Like, and there's another one where it's like, this is a cool video. Maybe you'll enjoy it and want to look at more content, or maybe associate me with you enjoying this, and that'll help.
I have fun taking the pictures and stuff, but also like probably the majority of the content at this point we've posted is stories of me holding bottles up in front of stores we drop them off.
Yes.
It's probably the thing we're most like known for, if we're known for anything on social media. But that's just to literally be like, you can get it here, you can get it here too. And there's like, there's only 20 stores we drop stuff off at, so it's a quick click through those stories if you find your place.
And that's also easier than updating a website all the time, right? Wait, it's here. It's like now they just
Right.
know in real time, here's where it is. And that's the power of, Instagram stories.
And it's a super cool tool where we can save all those as highlights, and you can, if you like want to find where we dropped off the finer points with plums, and you can click on that one, quickly click through until you recognize something. And often we have people that click through
cool.
that, don't recognize anything. They shoot me an email like, where's the closest? And I'm like, where do you live? Like, or just we can figure out a way to get it to you. But it drives a lot of that engagement in a way that I didn't even know it would.
I think one thing you're both kind of getting at is an exercise you can do before posting, where you just kind of ask yourself, is this for me or is this for them? And there's obviously certain kinds of posts that are kind of both. Sometimes people want to know when a beer is available and you tell them, so it's kind of both. But in general, like Mike, you could do a post that has nothing to do with directly linked to anyone buying your beer, because you're just talking about like approaches to Saison in general, and you take the time out to write this, make them smarter. You do that enough, and that's like a post for them, not for you. That's how you build loyalty.
Right.
And then that's going to like just link to, forget a specific beer, them just wandering through a bottle shop, see your beer, remember how much you've leveled them up. They'll be more likely to buy your beer. Same with doing this show, Chris. You could not mention anything about the store at all at once, but people get so much out of listening to this. The fact that you take the time to put it together will has I'm sure led to years and years of loyalty from a lot of your customers. It's hard to measure, but
yeah, it's hard to measure, but it has to. It has to some degree. I mean, could I take the same amount of time and put it towards something that would have more direct results? Perhaps, but this is the one thing that I think if I like got rid of the store or left the store, sold the store, whatever it is, went out of business, that I would probably keep in some format. I'd want to, I don't know, have an excuse to sit around and talk to people.
Yeah.
I think, because that's like my favorite thing. As the old intro to the show used to say, it was true. That was my favorite thing.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
And I'm like, if I didn't have the brewery, I probably wouldn't have a social media account about beer, but I do genuinely love explaining to people who want to listen what is beautiful about the things about Saison in general, what I'm making, and about other people's beer too. And I would probably do it more in person, but it's a fun. I actually enjoy most of it, and I don't enjoy like personal social media stuff. I don't hardly engage with it at all. But maybe a little long-winded at times. But I do. It's all opt-in, right? It's the way I think. But I put all the information you need in the first few lines of whatever I'm writing, and then the rest is if you want to opt in and read through it, you're more than welcome to, and you'll hopefully you'll gain something from it, at least about, if not about our beer, about Saison in general.
I mean, if I could, I mean, you, Wally, myself, Doug, had retail-oriented sales, like direct sales-oriented reasonings for a lot of what we did. I'm genuinely interested in Chalonda and Mike, and you guys talked about it a little bit, but yeah, I'm just curious, what is it? Is it a a hobby? Is it just something that you can't explain that you love, or is it? But why? Just because I wouldn't be doing it. So I'm just curious why someone is not, and that's not. I'm not throwing shade. I just said directly that I wouldn't have started this if I wasn't going to try to open up a business. So,
it's definitely a hobby that's become a little bit more than a hobby. And I think what Doug said earlier kind of resonated with when people send you a comment saying, "Hey, thanks so much for that recommendation," or "Because of your post, I tried this beer." I don't do drugs, but that's my drug, right? Like when someone comes in and says, I see that in my message, or they ask me a question and I can share that, the knowledge that I have been covering beer in the city for 9 years, that's what I like to do.
Got it.
And I think, I could easily step away. Maybe not easily. I could step away at any point, just be.
I could stop anytime I want.
Right, exactly. Whenever I want. But, it's just fun to do. And as I think also too, the beer industry has changed so much since when I first started. There's different types of content, different types of beer. And so it's always new. It's always different. There's always things to be talking about and content to create. And so it's always a little side hobby. And people, at my job, they know me, as the beer guy. And, it's become a part of me a little bit. And I'm totally cool with that.
It's funny. I mean, Chalonda, no offense, but I know you as Afro Beer Chick more than I know you by your actual name. So it's definitely worked. I mean, for you, your brand is definitely out there, at least for me. I don't know if that was the intent, but certainly very effective.
It's so funny because Afro Beer Chick, I got the name from a coworker. I used to always come to work talking about beer, and he was like, "Hey, you have this kick-ass afro, and you always talking about beer. You should call yourself Afro Beer Chick." And it just kind of stuck. But I do this because, yes, it's a bit of a hobby. It's an expensive hobby.
Many are. Many are.
Yeah, but I also do it for the experience. Like I said, I touched upon trying to find other, Black people in the beer industry, and then other women to connect just to share their experiences as their journey. It has definitely come a long way from when I first started drinking beer in 2009 to now. So it's a bit of a both. I won't say it's a job because, Mike, I can walk away at any given time. Like I started the podcast and I haven't done an episode in a year. And you know what? That's fine with me, even though I'm getting ready to start it back up. So I kind of do it at my leisure, so.
Yep. Same with me. I took a break, came back when I wanted to. And it was nice to be able to just be like, you know what? I'm not feeling it. But I did feel pressure to drop away. I definitely could not give it up whenever I wanted. I talked to Doug about it. I talked to you, Mike, about it. I was like, I am just not feeling the radio show, man. I gotta take a break. And then, I got so lucky. There was a giant global pandemic, and it was great cover for me.
Did you do that?
Well, I'm not saying. Let's change the subject. Okay.
I do have a question for you guys. People in here have grown some pretty substantial followings, 8, 9, 10, 20,000 followers. Maybe more. I haven't been keeping close tabs, I guess. But has that been like a steady climb for each of you individually?
You're talking about Just Mild?
Just Mild, yeah.
86.
8, 6, 8,000. Has it usually been like a steady increase, or do you see like big level up moments where you're like, oh, I got like a significant amount of bump from that? And if one or the other, how did you then internalize that or turn that into how you went about your social media life?
For me, I'm going to say I don't even pay attention to my following numbers most of the time.
Because they rock.
It wasn't until recently when I switched my phone and I was logging into my Twitter account, to my ABC Twitter account, that I saw that I was at 11.2, and I was like, when the heck did I get to this number?
Does it make you more self-conscious now that you're like, I'm talking to 11.2 thousand people, and I can't just be spouting off?
No, and even with my my AG, the numbers are steady going up. I don't really pay attention to the followings because I don't really, to me, to have a high number, it really don't faze me, because I'm one of those people that I'm okay with gaining people, but I'm also okay with losing people if you don't agree with anything that I say. So I don't really put any energy into the following. Like I don't check any of the insights. I don't see where I've been up at one moment, down at the next. It just, if you follow me, great. If you don't, then catch you around the next time, I guess.
That's good to hear because I do the exact same thing, and I thought I was being like
Negligent.
negligent. That's part of what I was saying, like the whole Mr. Magoo thing. Because I'm with you. I don't check any of that stuff. I mean, I see my followers. I see, I was at 82 earlier today, and now I'm at 86 for Just Milds, because not a lot of these.
I mean, you think he's joking, but he pays much more attention to his Just Milds account than the followers and the memes. Oh, sorry, than the real Beer Temple account.
Yes. Yeah. That now, but I used to. I'll tell you one thing. I didn't know. Talk about auto post. I was posting to Instagram as an auto because I didn't know what it was, and I literally did not know how to use it. I didn't understand how you
move through the app.
Yeah, move through the app and why people would use it. And now I think it for a while was my favorite. I don't really use any. I guess TikTok's probably my favorite now. It is for consumption. I mean,
Sure. That's perfect.
Yeah.
You're the target demo for them, I'm sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Doug. It's crack. TikTok is crack, so I'm gonna have to drop it soon because I'm gonna have to because I can't.
I can quit anytime.
I cannot quit anytime.
No.
I have to keep moving apps like social media apps around in my phone so they don't show up in the same spot, just so I don't just absentmindedly click them and then spend 15 minutes scrolling.
Oh, mine TikTok's already in a subfolder, and I click through to it. Just like boop, boop, boop.
You got to move into a different subfolder. Trick yourself. It works
my
for about a
goodness.
day and a half.
If you don't scroll through TikTok for an hour before you go to bed, what are you
How
doing?
do you sleep?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what all the
it's bad.
doctors say. You want a lot of stimulation
time,
and blue light right before you go to sleep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think for followers, it's been pretty steady.
Yeah.
And I check it every so often. I work in social media analytics, so I have reports that I can see my followers and see how they're trending. And it really is just steady. When something goes viral, maybe a small uptick, but probably not the uptick people might think. I had one reel that went really viral, like 1.7 million. I saw a bigger uptick for that.
Sure.
But then other than that, the things that do 10 to 50,000 doesn't really change your followers.
When you have something that hits like 1.7 million, are you like, as many people watched my TikTok reel as, some people that watch like episodes of Alf in the 80s? Like, are you like how do you like contextualize? Did you even think about the fact that there's an insane number? That's 1.7 million is a lot of people.
That's
It was
crazy.
it was the dumbest video too. Sometimes you create content, you put really a lot of thought into it, and maybe a little bit more effort with editing. And it's like this is going to
Sure.
do well, and then maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. This was just me, and it was about health and beer. And I think what it was is that people were getting the wrong message, saying that if you drink beer, it's not healthy. It was something really weird, but it was the wrong message. And it just is going around, and you just kind of watch it, and then you just see the followers, you see the comments, and at some point you just turn the notifications off. It's like I'm done with it. But that's by far and away the most viral I've ever had anything go, and it was fun. But you don't post to go viral. That's not the goal. You post to have good content, and TikTok. Learning more about the algorithm and all and everything. Some things will do 10,000, and then you'll wake up one morning and it's at 250,000. It's like, oh. Okay, cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Back at the brewery, we had pretty consistent, upticks in followers over the years. But what we would really notice, or what I would really pay attention to, was like how many likes a post got. So as we know bottle caps, that would be a metric that we would know, like, oh, we canned this style of beer, it got this many likes. That would start to dictate what the brew schedule would look like. So we just kind of use that as a metric to decide what, not all the time, but, what did we want to put out and, what people were responding to.
So that was something you wanted to talk about, right, Mike? Has social media for Wally and Doug? I guess this would be a question. Affected production?
Yeah. Well, Doug, would you like to answer the growth question?
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
Into that
Sorry.
too.
Yeah, mine sounds a little different. So Instagram for me, I think I actually started my account in 2013, and almost all of my followers were from 2013 to 2016. And as soon as I started working at Rev, it all makes sense looking back. For the first year or two, I didn't know what to do with my account now working at a brewery for the longest time. I mean, I worked at a distributor, but nothing I did there affected what I posted. But it was strange working at a brewery, and I think my content was pretty crap for that first year or two. And my following immediately stopped growing and started, not by anything significant, but like losing a few hundred here or there. And then it pretty much stayed flat from 2016 until like, I don't know, 2021. And I started just like totally changing up what I did when they started when TikTok came about. I was like an early believer in TikTok. And when I started actually like buying into that format and bringing it over into Instagram, everything started growing again. So mine went like straight up over 3 years, completely flat for 4 or 5. I didn't stop posting. It just, I don't think what I was doing was very compelling for a while. And then I completely eventually came up with a concept to change it up.
Flat time was the same as your like first ascended time. You're making essentially the same content.
Pretty much, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting.
With TikTok, I had 2,000 followers at Christmas when I got COVID, and I decided, I'm going to start trying with TikTok right now. And it was the perfect 2 weeks. I had nothing else to do.
So you also benefited from COVID, much like Chris.
Yeah.
All right.
And
okay.
I think in 2 months, I went from 2,000 to 17,000 in 2 months. So that happened extremely fast and just this year. So
amazing. Yeah. Then to segue into like, while you kind of mentioned that you guys would pay very close attention to how many likes something got, and then it would inform what you went to brew. Just a more larger question for people who run brewery Instagrams, like, is that like a something you've been seeing a lot? Does it inform the decisions? And then does Instagram in general, not just like what the brewery likes, gets, do you think that informs production decisions from people?
I think so. Every brewery is different. I think the big regional breweries, maybe not so much, but smaller breweries that are releasing 50-barrel batches or even smaller, we've kind of seen a homogenization of what craft beer looks like and styles, and I think Instagram has had a huge part of that. 16-ounce cans with stickers on them. Obviously, those do well, so other breweries will, start to kind of copycat a little bit. But I think the actual visual look of it on social media has, created, just a lot of similar styles, similar beers. And I mean, speaking from my experience, yes, we definitely used Instagram as a tool to not only sell the beer, but to get kind of data on, what we should produce.
I was talking to a brewery owner recently, and I pretty much asked him that direct question as a question about overall trends in beer, frankly, and he flatly answered yes. That's why everybody's brewing the same stuff, is because we're all just looking at each other's social media accounts and Untapped accounts and seeing what's getting engagement, seeing what's getting likes, seeing who has a big following, see who's getting the bottle caps, and it definitely weighs what we are brewing. I'm not saying that is industry-wide, so I don't want to speak for anybody else, but it seemed like a fairly typical practice for breweries of a certain size.
Yeah, I mean, when I did
at least
that beer that changed my life, or with Jude, he just said I'd never had a hazy IPA. I'd just seen them on Instagram, and I'd heard what they tasted like, and I wanted to make that and try that, and that's how they started making hazy IPAs.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Doug, at a much larger brewery, and someone who's very attuned to both the social media game and what actually is selling, you're probably one of the most informed people on that. How much does social media response to any given thing factor into how you guys forecast and or choose to produce beers?
It's actually a good bit, I'd say. For larger beers that are like on the shelves at the major grocery store, chain store retailers, you can't rely too much on 6 comments on a social media post to dictate terms there, but there's enough volume there that the sales kind of do the talking. Yeah. But we absolutely use social media for we're doing small batch stuff in 16-ounce cans. That's just the same size as all the other, a lot of other Chicago breweries on those kinds of beers that are like the equivalent of the old bombers that we now do in these 16-ounce 4-packs. So those are small for us. Like a batch of those could be, I'm not saying this is small, but it could be 50 barrels. We could do a 50-barrel batch of cans. We do 50-barrel batch of cans, so nothing gigantic. And that kind of feedback, like we just released Unsessionable, a beer we assumed we would never make again. And that was by far the most requested beer we've ever had. We just launched, or we recently announced we're launching into Minnesota. And Minnesota is by far the loudest fan base in our comments of when are you going to come to Minnesota. And you have to be careful for that, because sometimes we'll have like an investor who will just say like, when are you going to launch in Florida, because they live in Florida. Yeah. And you have to realize it's just that same person. It's
over and over again. Yeah.
But you can, if you pay enough attention to it, you're going to know these are different people. But it can be as much as like 10 people could say they really want one's enough to come back. Another beer we've said we'll never make again. But if like 10
everything
comments,
old is
and
new
now,
again, though,
now
right?
I'm like planting this to the listeners that they control us by saying this. But like it wouldn't take much to say, well, maybe we should bring that back, because why not? It's small batches. It's got nostalgia to it.
Right.
We haven't released it in 7 years. What would one batch hurt?
And it's like
work.
it's some data versus no data versus something that's exactly it's like completely brand new.
Yeah. One other thing to add, I use my experience as an observer on TikTok. So well before I started like really going all in and making a lot of content on there, anytime I would make content and something would not blow up, but get, let's say 100 comments, I feel like 50 of them would be like sour beer rules. And you could tell it was just like young people, and it was just like sour beer this, sour beer that, all positive. And I was like, I've loved sour beer. I'm in Lost Abbey's club. We're drinking the Lost Abbey. Like, I love sour beer, but I thought they were dead until the pandemic started, and I started paying attention to what 20-somethings were saying on TikTok, and they love sour beer. So it made me like focus on a line that we had already started, but say, I think we should keep building this thing and keep layering onto it and expanding what it could be. And it's been working
series.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has come from playing around on TikTok and seeing like the love of sour beers from like a demographic that we don't normally get any feedback from.
And I've heard the lemonade's doing well.
Yeah. I mean, it's off to a great start. It's winter, and it's only been 2 months, but yeah, it's going over great.
I think this is kind of an interesting segue to something else that I had on the kind of outline of how have you seen different responses across different platforms? Because if you only use one, you kind of get siloed into like, well, people only like this thing, but we have a couple people on here who have different Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. How have you seen responses be different across those platforms for similar or posts about different styles, or I don't know, but any similarities or differences you find interesting across platforms?
I can go. Sorry, I didn't want to keep talking, but so Instagram I've been on for so long that I feel like I've had the same followers for the longest period of time, that everybody is so nice on there. Nobody argues with me. Everybody's just like really nice. It's like, I don't want to sound cheesy and use the term community, but I feel like I've made this community of just like being nice and friendly, joking and stuff, and critical here and there, but just mostly positive. Mm-hmm. And so people are generally
positive. Is that
positive.
beer aficionado you're talking about? Okay.
On TikTok, which is brand new, it's kind of the wild, wild west. It's a lot of eyes wide open, people ready to learn, people asking really good, honest questions who are clearly just new to having a resource to ask beer questions too. And it's really refreshing, because I thought for the longest time, like questions were like, because I don't get a lot of questions on Instagram. I feel like the people that follow me have also been into beer for 8-10 years and have been there, done that, and don't have too many questions left to be answered. But on TikTok, it's like a fresh crowd. And sure, people are jumping over, and so some of the people are just the same people, but there's just this like new crop of people that are like ready to learn on there, and it's really refreshing and nice. There's obviously some jerks, but there are always people that don't follow you. They're just people passing by for a hit and run, and you just have to realize that's all it is, and just be like, thanks for the engagement boost. Appreciate it. But and then Twitter is the most brutal. I feel like it's just a lot of know-it-all comments. Like occasionally, if I phrase a question the right way, I can get some really good friendly banter, but good feedback. But a lot of times it's just kind of like a competition to see who can outwit the person before them in a comment string. So I don't get a lot out of Twitter, but I sometimes can't help myself.
Sure.
I think TikTok, it's, to Doug's point, it's new. It has a lot of anonymous accounts. People are fresh getting into it. The negative accounts I get, and I think it's way meaner than Instagram. I agree with Doug. Instagram is a community. People, give you really good conversation back and forth. TikTok, It's the 0 followers,
Nice.
zero posts,
Twitter
just
egg
all
accounts.
just all comments. They come in there, they leave a comment. Sometimes if I'm bored, I'll engage. Sometimes I'll create a post with their comment to kind of call them out, and other times I'll just ignore it. But I think TikTok right now is just kind of a lot of interesting come at you. If they disagree, it's not like, hey, I actually like this. It's no, it's just vulgar directly at you if they really disagree. And it's a smaller percentage. There is a lot of good stuff, but that's where you're seeing it on TikTok, not so much Instagram.
Anyone else have multiple?
Instagram's always been kind of nicer too, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I
Seems
think so.
like,
I think it's also harder to have a thread of things where like you're arguing in comments, right? Like, you just it gets lost and jumbled, and you're just like,
I just want to see cool pictures
Right.
on Instagram. It's
Yeah.
like, I just
Yeah.
want to see a cool picture.
a big beer wall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The beer wall.
We have yet to
We should talk
venture-
about that too. You wanted me to.
Is Beer Temple doing a TikTok? I mean, Bottles and Cans has not. I
We
haven't
had
even
one.
entertained it.
Doug suggested
Yeah.
we do it. I did a couple posts. One, like, I don't know
It's like
engagement
is this thing
across.
on?
Right. No, it was like we got like 100, and I was just checking. It's like over 100,000, 140,000, something like that. And I posted like 5 more times, and then hasn't posted again. Like, I don't know. It's just, it's so much work.
Yeah, it seems like deep waters. I just don't understand. And now
It seems
now
like
I'm
so
hearing
much
it's
more.
mean spirited.
Or how about this? It's more work than I feel like
Yeah.
putting into it, and maybe we just have to get better at doing that sort of stuff. And I feel like we've been focusing so much on other areas that are really not customer facing, but like this corporate stuff. We've just been spending the last 2 years growing this, which is
You said that started from Facebook posts, right?
that's right. It did.
Like
It
people
did.
found you on Facebook and
That's right.
enhanced your business.
Which is funny because I hadn't even thought about that as a social media thing until last week. You reminded me that we should bring it up, and then I forgot again about it. But
I
yeah,
reminded you again.
so that was Facebook, and it was again kind of just being very not sales driven. It was right when the pandemic started, and if we can all go back and remember that, how everyone was scared. I mean, just we were all scared, and I remember talking with my wife, and I was like, this is messed up. We need and she had a suggestion to just why don't we do like go on and like share beers with people, and we can have like a happy hour, type thing. So we did it like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, something like that. Just like Friday nights, because we knew nobody was going out. This was the night that they were probably going to be like, well, this sucks. I'm at home and it's Friday night. And we specifically wanted to not talk about anything important. Because for a while, it seemed like, I don't know, not right to not talk about. Like, there's so much important stuff going on, but we specifically were like, people need a mental break to not think about anything and to think about something as unimportant as beer. And then somebody saw it who worked for an event planning company and was like, we're looking to start moving to virtual stuff because I don't know if you've realized, but there are no events anymore. Right. And we're scared too. And that's how it took off. And that's why we don't promote any of our corporate stuff, is because we don't need to. It's all corporate planning companies who find out about us and go that way. But it did definitely come from social media.
I think that comes back to something that, Doug, we've talked about off air, of your idea of reps. Just like when you're doing TikTok or you're doing Instagram, just getting reps in, just getting out there, doing it and learning from just keep making content.
Yeah. For anybody who doesn't understand how content creators do this or just thinks, I don't have time for that. The best analogy I'd say is like, for someone who's like really good about exercising, like that's not everybody, that's not the majority, but there's plenty of people out there that are really good about not only like getting a run in every day, but also doing arms, doing yoga, doing this and that. Those people have like done it enough that it's not something they think about. It's not something they dread. It's just become, this is something I do. They're just so used to it that it's just like innate that, and I'm getting up early and going on this run, because they've kind of gotten over that hump where it's not hard anymore. And that's what I'm getting at with the idea of reps. Like you do enough of these. Like someone asked me on the other day something about TikTok, and I told them how like, you know, this was a long process. Like when I started on Instagram, I was just taking a blurry picture and writing the bare basics of what was in that picture. And then I got a little bit smarter and I was writing a little more of a deeper dive of what was in that picture, but I was never in a picture. I was not comfortable being on camera. Then I was like a blurry, out of focus person in the background. And then all of a sudden I became more in focus. And then I started coming on Chris's show 6 years ago and was probably shaking the first time I was on here, being on a microphone for the first time on a podcast. Then I got used to it. And this all happened over many, many years of getting the reps, getting used to answering. I wanted to have a rehearsed answer. I wanted an agenda from Chris like 4 days ahead of time back then. Now I don't look at, I'm the guy that doesn't look at the agenda anymore because I just got so used to being able to answer things on the fly. It's like you do it enough and you get more comfortable. It doesn't feel like work anymore. It becomes something you hopefully enjoy, and it just gets easy or it just becomes that thing you do.
Another question I have for all you guys and all you people, how much of what you do on social media is based on the content you make, and how much of it is the value of it comes from the interactions you get from the content you made? Is this something you think about before you make the content, or is it just something that happens after you make it? Like the people you're trying to cultivate, the people you interact with, like how much of your effort, time, thought goes into just the content, and how much is I now get to interact with these people and continue to build a fan base? Or
100% just making the content for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious.
For me, I just kind of go in. I mean, because what you see is what you get. So what you see on my social medias is who you're going to get off of social media. So it's like when I post pictures of what I'm doing as far as the beer I'm drinking or how I'm baking with alcohol, whatever it is, I'm baking. That was another pandemic talent. But baking with alcohol,
baking with alcohol.
I made some key lime tequila pancakes during the pandemic. It wasn't a thing, but it's a thing now.
Sounds great.
And so far people have just kind of genuinely loved it because of the fact it's been like genuine. It wasn't staged. It was just put out there and people just kind of, ran with it, which I appreciate. So I'm going to say for me personally, I don't really put too much thought into it. I just do it.
And then once something's out there, how much of the juice for you is doing it versus getting to interact and talk with people? Is it fun to like deal with people that are now talking like, give me that recipe for the tequila pancakes. I'm trying to get drunk at brunch too. Oh
man, it's been so fun. It's opened some doors. And Doug knows I'm getting ready to do something with Rev with these whole beer cocktail things. And it's been fun. It's definitely opened up some different platforms for me. It's been challenges. So I have definitely enjoyed it and I will continue to do it. So yeah, that's how I see it.
Nice.
This Veritas that you brought, Doug,
raspberry
is fucking awesome.
Write that down, Serge.
Yeah, write that down, Serge. Fucking awesome. I have to write it down again. He tells you not to say that. Serge doesn't like when you do that.
I think you get to the point when you're creating content, you probably have an idea of something that you create is going to get some comments, and you're just prepared for it. And you don't think of that. That doesn't drive the content. The piece of content you want to do, you just kind of have a feeling it's gonna happen, and then you can decide what you want to engage with.
And then how much of like the value of what you're doing do you think comes with the content or the conversation and the engagement you have afterwards? Is it mostly content? Is it mostly that you're now engaging people in a deeper way than if it was just a picture that they liked?
I think it depends on the content. So I did a fun post about like my favorite touristy deep dish pizza places on TikTok. I knew going into that, no matter what I posted, was going to have a reaction, and it did. And I wasn't going to interact with everybody. It just, they were telling me their favorites. I'm like, cool, like that's great. Like these are my favorites. But then when I started talking about my favorite Chicago lagers, then I want to engage with that because that's like a more meaningful conversation to me. People are like, oh, where can I get this? Or have you heard of this? I'm like, no, and people actually share things with me. I think that's kind of the cool thing is, I'm in Chicago. There's so many breweries. There's so many beers. I can't be everywhere. So people say, hey, have you had this one? I'm like, no. Put that on my list, see if I can get out there. Yeah. And that to me is actually where I kind of like the value of social is getting to interact with the community more so on Instagram than anywhere where people are
'Cause they're
sharing.
nicer.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. They're nicer to me. So sharing, where they are, their experiences, and telling me about beers that they've had, and I share my beers that I've had, and we go back and forth. It's cool.
Nice.
Yeah, during the pandemic, we used back at Illuminated. We just, for example, picked a random time every day that it would be like a cheers with the hashtag. I can't recall what it was, but just encourage people to join us in like a little cheers over Instagram, and it was always kind of fun to see. We weren't selling anything. It was always kind of fun to personalize it. Each person from the brewery would do their own unique post, and see. There's always like one or two people that always did it, but it was always kind of fun to see. The 3 or 4 people that participated. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. I just came up with a new idea for a series of videos, because I'm always trying to think of stuff that I can do that would be interesting for the people doing it, because then I think it will translate into, it'll be enjoyable to watch if the people are genuinely kind of liking it.
Yeah.
Which I've also found drives excitement from people watching it. I think we bring this example up a lot because I think it's a well, just one that we bring up a lot, but the Rod House one.
Yeah.
When I
was
went
just
on
gonna
there.
say that.
I mean, no idea that one was going to blow up the way it did. I don't even know what engagement that post got. I never, but it
Well, that's
wasn't
a
even
good
about
point too.
that.
Is like you don't even know exactly the engagement of that post, but you guys were bringing in pallets of that beer, and they were
Right.
selling out of just like a German lager.
Right.
$16 a six
Yeah,
pack.
yeah,
right.
yeah.
That we were like,
Yeah.
this stuff is great.
Yeah.
Wow, we
Yeah.
just had it, and I had to get on a video and be like, oh my gosh, this is great. We're bringing in a lot because we think it's really good.
I would think the blind tasting videos that you guys do
Yeah.
always engaged with people on a different level too.
And that was just us trying to do, again, doing something fun. We did it because we thought it would be fun, and we were also confident enough to fail on video, which for Steven and Max, I had to assure them it's fine. We're not
Right.
always
It's all-
going to get it.
It's also like humanizing, right? It's
Right.
Like
It's like
makes them-
it's good.
It also makes them more approachable in the store, right? That people can
Right.
come up to them and talk to them, and like they know who they are, and they know that they're not
Right.
just these monolithic like Neo in the Matrix, knowing everything about every mild you have in the store style like people.
Right.
But, like,
You mean this one?
they're humans, yeah. That's how they do it. But there's people you can interact with, and they have fun, and they have feelings, and I feel
Yeah.
like that's pretty important too.
Yeah. So, but that's kind of the things that I'm looking for is what can we do? What can we involve people here? What will they enjoy doing? And then that will somehow be either visually or audio engaging somehow. What were you going to say, Doug? Or looks like you're moving the mic. Getting ready.
No, I've always been fascinated by the Rothaus example, and it's like you championed that one. Another example is like Dave Holly at the Beer Cellar. I think they're the #1 Firestone account in the state, something
Okay.
like that. And it's because they push it. They love Firestone, and they hand sell it, and they feature it, and they push
Yeah.
it because they love it. I feel like there's not everybody, but a lot of people want that. They want that like voice in their beer life of someone who's dealing with beer all day that's that excited about something. Like that's how I ordered Terrace Balba today. I've never had it on draft. I think I had it once like 2 years ago, and that's it. I ordered
Right.
it today because I hear you guys talk about it so much. And otherwise I would have just been like staring blindly at that board with my eyes glossed over.
Sure.
But I was like, oh, I got to order that.
That's that beer that
like,
everyone talks
you know,
about,
A lot
yeah.
of people, we joke about the term influencer, but I feel like in general, people want a nudge in a direction, especially now where everybody's so lost with everything going on. They just point me somewhere.
Right. I think people want some reason to buy something other than just it's the best, most effective way to spend my dollar, right? If that's, an emotional connection, a personal connection, a recommendation from someone you trust, or like a political reason. Like I think especially millennial generation wants to buy things that are meaningful more than they are just commodities because we're stuck in the capitalistic system and must find ways to make meaning out of it. But that aside, like I think that these are good ways to do it, is to use social media to connect and show people who you are, and give them a reason to actually buy your thing versus some nameless, faceless thing that might be cheaper or more cost effective for their alcohol consumption needs.
That I'm guessing based on what Chalonda said, she may not have any idea about either, is some of these like metrics that people are looking at. We got a call from someone at Firestone. Steven took the call last week, and he was saying, hey, I just found out that we're like the most, I don't even know the terms, like something like
Checked
the most
in.
we drove more engagement for Hopnosis IPA than anywhere in the country, including the Paso Robles tap room. I don't even know what that means.
I mean, that's amazing.
But we were like, wow, that's pretty cool. I mean, the beer had only been on for like a week or something like that. So I guess it was in that period of time.
Yeah.
Maybe untapped check-ins where people put your location as where they had it.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't take the call, and I probably wouldn't have asked anyway. I've been like, oh, that's cool. But like, it's interesting to me that people are following it, and then someone at Firestone told probably the local rep. Then the local rep called the general manager of the location, and
Did they just say like you did this and that was it, or they were
thanks,
like,
that's awesome, that's great.
Okay.
I think it was something
Interesting.
kind of like that.
Nice. There was no like ask or then be like we should do an event together about hypnosis. There's just
I mean, there might have been something like that, but that wasn't passed on to me at all. It was like, hey, this is kind of cool.
That is cool.
But the listeners are starting to learn a little bit about
Did you post
how
it?
we work.
Did you post about it that you had it?
I didn't.
So was it on, I mean, but like, was it on any of the beer temple's social?
Probably that it was on.
Yeah.
Probably that it was on. And then I think it was probably, what reminded me of it is what you were saying about Firestone, Doug, is I think we're just in person championing it because people, I know I did definitely said, hey, that Hopnosis is fire right now. Like that beer is really good. And I know a bunch of people had been saying that. A bunch of people who work there have been talking about it. It is in draft and on package. We have both here, so that could be it. So maybe, we turned a lot of people onto it, and it converted to social media or Untapped, which is a weird subtype of social media, perhaps. But it was an interesting thing where it was, I mean, I hadn't thought about it till now, but it might have been like actual non-social media interaction converting to create kind of social media.
Yeah, kind of like, I mean, this sounds a little bit like kind of the parallel with the Untapped conversation you guys were having. Sorry, I got to get a little closer. What are they doing with the data that, that all these breweries are uploading? Doug, you said, if the product's free, then if it's free, you're the product essentially.
Right.
So, it sounds like Untapped is going to start coming out with, accessibility of this data for breweries. Is Instagram doing the same thing? Is Untapped a client of Instagram? I'm curious. I have no idea.
I don't know.
It's just a free service for us to sell beer. So
Right. I have a feeling though that this stuff's going to get a lot more kind of scrutinized and granularized and really, really combed through and looked at. To what end? I don't know. I mean, I think to me, it's definitely a feel for, I don't look at any of the analytics. I don't know. Do you, Doug? I don't know. I assume you do just because you're the beer cruncher.
I think a lot of people assume I do. I honestly look at nothing other than of course, when my TikTok account is growing from 12 to 17,000 in 2 months, I'm of course looking at that and going, holy crap. But other than the following growing, if it's growing quickly, I don't care about really anything. TikTok makes it so hard to not see how many views, and you just naturally look, and some of them get 200 and some of them get 20,000, and I don't not notice that, but I don't.
Yeah.
It doesn't impact much of anything,
Right.
So I don't really do anything with it. I don't dig
Okay.
in and look for the deeper analytics that are behind the scenes. I don't care.
And that's what I love to do. I love to look at analytics. I work with a lot of clients, but I work with a lot of breweries. And I was working with one brewery in the Midwest, regional distribution, not here in Chicago, but they came to us and they're like, hey, tell us which of our beers are doing well. What are people talking about? When we release an IPA, how does that do compared to when we release a lager? And there's so much data you can get nowadays, and learn these trends, and how you take that data is totally up to you, but you can get that data if you want.
So give me a suggestion that one of us here at the table, or maybe we could all try to do it, would do that would be likely to driving? I mean, can you moneyball it? Can you like say this is what you should do, or this is what you can not should do, but could do that would increase or get good engagement or something like that?
Yeah, we can definitely
I'll
take
just try it.
Yeah, for sure. We can look at your posts. We can categorize them. We can tell you that when you post on this day about this type of content, it does better than blank. And then the biggest problem with social media today for businesses is attributing the ROI, because you can post about it, you can hope it drives sales. And sure, if let's say you have a post that does really well and you see sales go up that day, you can make that assumption that it did it, but it's really hard today to say because I posted, this, you bought this. Now there are some things with links that you can kind of follow the customer journey that you can get really into the weeds. But yeah, I mean, we can look at all types of data points and tell you, I mean, and some of the native networks actually do provide this, like what time are your followers most active? When you post, when do people see your content the most? There's all types of data points today that services can provide you that will help you get more engagement, get more impressions, get more followers, and hopefully convert to sales.
Interesting. I just noticed that for the first time because there's a new tool that Meta has, as Facebook used to be called, where you can now, the only reason I use it is because it's like a free version of Later where you can post to Instagram and Facebook at the exact time. And it says in here, which is the first time I'd ever seen it, it's like, we suggest you post on Instagram if it's going to be on Tuesday at this time, Wednesday, and you can schedule it. And then it's different if you go to Instagram. And then and up until 1 minute ago, I was like, what are you talking about? I want to post it right now. I mean, or I'll schedule it for, I don't know, noontime. People will be at lunch. I don't know. And I kind of do that. So it's interesting. So people are definitely, that's definitely going to be a thing, is when are your people most likely to see it? So I think it's going to become more and more natural. Maybe it'll just become part of like the fabric of understanding. It's like, oh, everyone knows that 8 p.m. on Wednesday is a great time to post. They were really late times for that when I was looking at it too. It was bizarre, like 6 p.m., 8 p.m., stuff like that. Oh, people going to bed, look at their TikTok.
Right. I noticed TikTok for me was much later. I always used to post earlier in the day.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the analysis. I was like, I'm just curious. And I noticed that most of my followers were on between 6 and 10 p.m. And I was like,
right.
Oh, I'll never post that late. Now I post at 8 p.m. and those posts will do more in an hour than my 1 p.m. post.
Right. Well, you think if I post at 11 a.m. when I'm ready to put it up, it's going to be up there too.
Right.
Why they'll still see it? And
that's exactly what I think.
It's just not. I don't think that's how the algorithms work.
And the key, so that goes for the TikTok algorithm, is so within the first 30 to 60 minutes, right, it goes to your followers on TikTok. They're looking to see who of your followers is watching more than 7 seconds of it, who is sharing it, who is commenting it, who is liking it. How well it does in that first initial time period then determines how much it goes to the broader audience. And so if you're posting at an earlier time, your followers might see it later. And that's why sometimes you get like a late boost on TikTok. Is like, oh, I posted this 2 hours ago, didn't do anything. 6 hours later, someone saw it. They started sharing it. Now it's going off.
So their algorithm picks it up based on your followers.
All the algorithm.
Interesting. Good to know.
Interesting. So you're saying I could have 88 followers by now?
And just miles?
Maybe after this.
You're posting pretty late most of the time on that. It's usually us at the bar being like,
I think I put one today about like noon. I was bored.
well, that's when people are drinking milds.
That's true.
Yeah.
Can't drink mild all day.
Because most of the people that are drinking milds are going to bed at 6:30 p.m.
Well, no, it's because it's
glorious.
It's 6 p.m. It's 6 p.m. Greenwich
English
Mean
time. That's right. Yeah.
Exactly. That's
Gotta
why
think about that. And then daylight savings.
I
is throwing
post
the whole
all
thing
my
off, so
milds accounts based on Greenwich Mean Time.
You got to put your location.
Surprised you didn't notice that
at the GM date
Yeah,
line.
exactly.
Perfect.
Yes, I will say that has been fun for me to do. To have that
Good.
that side account, which is just meant to be stupid and kind of trolly and waste people's time, and
So
including
follow
my
it.
own, and
Including my
yes.
own.
One of my points in my English style, my Firkin Frye post coming out is that's how barley wine started. It started as is a joke of a Facebook group that led to memes. And all of a sudden now every brewery with a barrel program is releasing at least one English barley wine every year. And I think there's something to it. Those same people that are drinking a lot of barley wine are now 5 years older than when that all began, maybe looking for a session barley wine. And what is the closest thing to a session barley wine, Chris?
A mild.
Mild.
A mild. It's true. It's true.
That was
In the
far
party
too
guile.
logical for
In
the
the-
just milds account.
In the party guile system, you know, the second or third runnings of a barley wine would give you the mild, so to speak. So it's interesting. But you're telling me that people were drinking barley wines ironically.
100%.
Nice. That's awesome.
Did that
It's
start
amazing.
ironically, or was that something that the person who started that
That was don't drink- was that don't drink beer, or did it start-
genuinely into barley wine, and then
He
it became
started
an
it
ironic
making
joke?
fun of Lambica's Life, which is a Facebook group, and he called it Barley Wine is Life as a joke, and it was all memes, and then people started drinking them, and then realizing that they actually like English barley wines. They don't like American hoppy barley wines. And then it turned into like a cultural shift of, you know, some breweries were already making them. We were Fremont, Firestone, kind of. There were plenty of examples out there already at their disposal, so that's what they were drinking. Pelican, you know, a couple others.
Anchorage, yep.
And then it just spiraled from there. And literally, like, find me a brewery in Chicago or anywhere with a dark beer barrel program that isn't making a English barley wine.
I mean, we're a saison brewing. We actually have an English barley wine in barrels, but it's nothing. It was not. I didn't know any of that history. As Brett's seeing it, it's going to be all terrible. People aren't going to like it. But
That's just like, is it because of Stockyard?
yes,
Nice.
partially.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, that makes
Well,
sense.
From a time that you and I sat in the backyard drinking JW
In the middle of the winter.
at 20-degree weather, thinking this will warm us up.
Yes.
Uh,
It worked.
But yeah, made this beer because of that. It hasn't come out yet, but who knows when it will. But we do have one in barrels,
Okay.
mostly because of Barley Wine is Life, but also because of like our unique experience together.
Yes. Cask mild as an uphill battle. But hey, I'm willing to fight that battle because everyone who knows me knows that that's all I drink.
Lucrative hill to die on.
Yes. Yes. It's great. Yeah. But it's fun.
Yeah.
So to be stupid and waste time sometimes in the middle of the day when you're incredibly busy.
They're not expensive to make, which is a plus for
Right.
breweries.
That's true. That's true.
So when is Revolution making their 50 barrels of cask mild for Chris?
Well, we did can an English mild in October and gave Chris casks, I believe,
Yeah.
too. So, I mean,
All 50
I've been on
barrels
it.
into pins.
You know, on a small
true.
scale, but
It's true. It's true. I do like mild. I like bitter, I like mild. But you know.
Who doesn't?
I mean, yeah. Doesn't. Heathens probably. Communists. You know. People like that. I shouldn't have done that. That was way louder than I thought it was going to be. So what do we got, Mike? What do we have left on our agenda?
I mean, I think I got a lot of questions answered that I thought I was interested in, at least. That
How about, does anyone else have questions?
yeah.
How about
Does
that?
anyone have questions of anyone else on the panel or about how people go about things? Of I don't know, just in general. Like
Throw it out there to
thoughts.
these influencers.
Yeah.
This is the question for the TikTok. I'm always impressed at the how quick and the amount of movie references, songs. Like, you know, sometimes it's an old movie reference, sometimes it's a very current popular song that you guys are using to, you know, quoting and bringing it into the beer. How do you guys search for your content when you're, you know, referencing, sampling things?
It's just by consuming the content. And so with TikTok, you know, I'll scroll, do my hour a night or whatever I do, and I'll hear a sound. I'll be like, you know what, I could do something with that, and I'll save it. And then sometimes there's a topical something topical happens. I'm like, wait a second, connect the two, do it right away. That happened this past weekend. Had a sound queued up. I was thinking like, oh, and then news came out, and I was like, I was all over it, and it did quite well because it was just so fast, so to the point.
yeah, I do that. That's probably like half of mine is from, you know, coming up with a system of like when you see one that gives you an idea that usually for me has nothing to do with beer. I actually don't follow very many beer accounts at all on TikTok. I like following other niches. But
Who do you follow on TikTok?
I mean, I follow 150 different things, but I don't know.
Name them. No, I'm just kidding.
Mostly NFT projects. No, I'm just kidding. So I just have like a system of saving ones, and the things I save are kind of like my to-do list or idea board, to use a cheesy term. And then as soon as I use them, I unsave it to like uncheck it in a way. I actually get probably half my ideas. I do this a lot on Instagram. A lot of them have nothing to do with the TikTok trend. They actually came from like a song I was listening to when I was on a Peloton ride, because they just put random songs in there, and I have nothing better to do than to like think of, as I'm like huffing and puffing on a bike ride, I hear a song and something they say reminds me of like a way to connect it to beer, and I'll hopefully remember when I'm done and just like make a note on my phone to do it later when it's convenient. And so I'll get like some of those ones where I'm like turning like a lyric to a song into like the punchline of a beer conversation. A lot of this comes from like when I'm riding a bike and listening to like old, like 20-year-old songs.
It's hilarious.
For mine, again, to make it about my favorite account, it's thinking of old, tired, lame memes that are all like not relevant anymore, and then bringing
Boomer
those
memes.
and then bringing them back. As
Like you're on like the lolcats of mild right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
exactly.
Nyan cat. But
Yes.
it's like
It's very on brand.
it's a
It's
pump
on
mile.
brand
Yeah.
to have old memes.
Like JG Wentworth, like
Yes.
Galaxy
Exactly.
brain memes.
Yes. Galaxy brand
Scumbag
memes.
Steve doesn't like memes.
See.
He doesn't like milds.
That's you're stealing my future content.
I'm
Literally.
creating your future
Oh,
content.
okay. Exactly. Yes. So that's what I do. No one asked, but I felt like talking about it.
All right.
And sometimes you just record something and you don't know where it's going to go. You just kind of record it and you put it in the drafts, and then someday you'll be like, oh, you're not going to add the text to that, and it makes sense. You know, I think the thing with TikTok is you just record and you see how it goes, and if you think it's funny or you think it's worth it, you post it. Some of them will do well, some of them won't. And that's just it. You know, it's kind of like Twitter. You know, if you tweet something, you don't think about it too much. I think sometimes people think about video content more because it's more work. But I tweet like, I don't know, maybe 10 times a day, and I don't think twice about it. So I kind of put that into TikTok, where I made this, throw it out there, see what happens.
Do you have any personal favorites of like surprise like successes you've had on across any social media channels? Like you put something up that you're like, oh, that was nice and that was fun. People like that.
You know, I did a little like video on Dovetail's Kolsch Night. And I just took some screen, you know, just some video quick, and I was like, you know, I'll throw this up there. Probably won't do well because it's Kolsch and it's on TikTok, and
Cole's just having a moment right now. I
it
think.
is, and it did well. It did better. I forgot how many views it got, but I was like, oh, people actually are resonating with Kolsch Night, and people are saying like, oh, just like, you know, so and so, and then Hopewell did
Kolsch
one,
night
yeah,
that
exactly,
was packed, and yeah.
And so I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And it kind of made me feel good. Like, hey, people are excited about Kolsch Night. They're asking, when's the next one? I was like, I don't know. Talk to the brewery. But it was cool to see like it do well.
Kolsch is the new Czech dark lager, I think.
I'm not opposed to that at all.
Doug, have you had any favorite sneaky successes on any of your platforms?
the thing I just can't stop doing is the beer bro character that I kind of created, where I just have conversations with like accountant Doug talking to beer bro Doug, which is like a combination of myself 8 years ago.
It's Guinness.
It's like partially myself 8 years ago, different guys I hang out with through the years, and then just people I see online. I've just kind of combined them into this one ridiculous persona. And I don't put all of them on Instagram. I do a lot more of them on TikTok, but those by far do the best of anything I do, which is exciting because it's not a trend. I'm not using a soundbite or anything. It's just me shooting 2 videos and then cutting them together of just this conversation between myself.
Creating your own lexicon of things.
Yeah. So I never expected those to do good. I just laughed at myself as I was doing them, and I have fun making them because I'm usually like laughing as I do it. And then the fact that people are actually finding it entertaining has been a pleasant surprise. So I keep doing them.
I'm actually curious, when you film those, do you film those on the TikTok app, or do you film them off the app and then upload the video?
I now do them. I do everything on my phone. I don't want to deal with a camera or anything, but I do not use the TikTok app anymore. There's like bugs with it. Every time I try to edit in it, I'll run into these bugs, and then I'll just end up scrapping it. And so I just film on my iPhone camera and then splice them together with like iMovie or something simple like that.
Oh, okay.
I've heard there's different engagement, at least on Instagram, if you do something in-app versus uploading a photo. I don't know if I've actually tracked it, but
I think it's a wise tale.
yeah.
They've different places that do social media advice might say that, but I've seen plenty of things. I've seen like the TikTok watermark come over to Instagram and blow up, and they say like, oh, you got to get rid of the watermark before you bring it over to Instagram. And I see plenty of things, so maybe, but there's certainly exceptions to everything. So I don't really pay much attention to that.
Gotcha. Wally, any like nice little secret successes you've had on the gram or on the
Pictures of Blanton's.
Yeah.
I love rare whiskey. That's what it always does. I'll do a really thoughtful
Is
post.
Blanton's rare whiskey these days?
I'll do a thoughtful post of a single barrel store pick that we did, and we'll get like 30 likes. Blanton's 200 likes.
It looks like a soccer ball, so it's pretty cool.
I'll give a little tip that I found is you put someone's face in it, and it does well.
People, Sam
a shock
is a
to me.
star on the beer
Sam
temple.
Sam takes a picture of him sipping, bang.
That is a good point. We try and
blows up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we also didn't talk about my invention, by the way.
Oh,
my
yeah.
social media invention, which is the beer wall.
Sure, but
I'll take credit for it.
Shalonda, do you have any like little secret
I'm
successes
sorry.
you've had that you've really loved before we get onto the Chris's
Patented
patented beer wall?
Yeah.
It's so funny you mentioned pictures. I try not to do too many selfies on like my Instagram period. So it's so funny because like Nick and say, hey, you need to let the people see you every so often. But it's when I do post a picture of me holding a beer, those pictures, the likes just kind of skyrocket. So
Yeah, I've noticed that. I mean, people want to see the people behind the account, I think.
The most liked pictures on our Instagram are pictures of me doing stuff with like a curl coming out of like my mane here. But I hate them. I don't like, and it's just me, so it's hard to like take pictures of myself, and I'm not a selfie guy, so I'm hindering our engagement. But Chris, you invented probably the biggest trope of beer retail.
The beer wall.
Yeah, can you tell us about the beer wall?
Yeah, so that picture of like everything you got in stacked up into a giant wall. I think the Beer Temple invented that. I believe we did. Before that, it was people listing in the just typing out every single beer, sometimes every beer, and the price. I did not have time for any of that.
No.
I would just take a picture of it and be like, "This is what we got."
It's funny. It's funny to think of a time when someone would think that would be better.
I
This click more to see the 900 beers we got in today.
We'll be on
I guess
Facebook.
it wasn't 900.
It was
back
very
in the day, though.
Facebook heavy back then,
Sure,
too.
sure.
So you're posting it. Again, Instagram was just a linked account for me
Right.
back then. It was for Facebook and Twitter, and I was just like, I don't have time. I have no. See, again, it comes all back to what can I do easily, repeat it, and
It's
just
the
do
greatest reward for the least amount of work.
it. Exactly. There,
life, baby.
Bang, there it goes.
What were you saying, Wally?
I just recall one time stopping into the beer temple, and Max and Nick had stacked like it had to have been like over 10 feet tall. It looked very dangerous, but it just turned into a game of like how tall can we stack? I mean, it almost touched. It was at the old building. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I remember that. So that was that's my not even a claim to fame, but it's one little add on.
It's just
for
so
us.
ubiquitous for any of the retail accounts I follow that you have to put it up. If you don't, like, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
But it's also
you even have a. I mean,
it's so
yeah,
impenetrable
you even
at this
lift?
point.
Yeah, I know.
Like when I was like, if I see our beer in there, I'm like, no one's looking at the 500 milliliter bottle and whatever's in the corner there. But
you'd be surprised. Sometimes people kind of pick up on that stuff.
People are definitely engaging with it. There's a reason everyone's doing it, and that everyone continues to do it. But it's just like
because we still do it.
That's why everyone else continues to do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
But we're
exactly
we're about to flip the script and take pictures of no beers, just a blank, just a counter, just a countertop.
And people have to guess.
Yes. No and no nothing. Just nothing. Watch. It's going to blow up. Or maybe not. Maybe I won't do that. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm trying to debate.
I'm guessing you're not going to do that. It would be very funny.
But
All bright cans, 4-packs with no labels on them,
Yeah.
just like a whole wall of them.
the biggest thing that it didn't blow up, but the thing that made me the most happy was definitely the third Dust Brother trolling that TV show, based on you and Eric, your Instagram trolls of my Beer Temple account, you trolling us, and then coming on to the radio show, and then trolling more, and then somebody being interviewed at Dark Lord Day, and spur of the moment, just trolling the person interviewing them, them not realizing it, and naming the segment after the Dust Brothers.
Mm-hmm. You know,
I mean, that truly made me like the happiness in my soul. Third Dust Brother, I know you're out there. I will never forget
Reach
you.
out
Thank
to
you
us.
so much.
Yeah, the 2 times I've seen you like giddy about something were that, and then when I was on WGN News, but they
Yes,
the
that's
Chiron
other
said my
one.
name was Mike Strong because they didn't do enough research to realize that my email address at Pipeworks was Strong Mike, and that wasn't my name, even though I signed it with my full name. Still,
You're right.
I'm wearing my parents had people gather around in Connecticut, and they streamed it because they knew I was going to be on WGN. I'm wearing a Marty McFly Halloween costume with the sleeve hanging down, like the sleeve that broke in Back to the Future 2, and it just scrolls across the screen, Mike Strong, Pipeworks Brewing Company. You're crying.
It is.
It's the funniest, my favorite thing that's happened to me.
I am
publicly,
crying.
I think.
And those are moments I live for.
Yeah.
Those things like that truly make me happy.
Me too. I still have at your what was it, like the 100th show or 200th show or something.
Yeah.
You printed out like the little the screen caps from all the shows, and I still have the one that was me with that. Like I still have the little square you made of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I still have that picture
it's on
too.
my desk.
I think it's a favorite on my phone. It's still Strong Mike.
Yeah, well,
or Mike Strong, rather.
All my parents' friends in Connecticut gathered around the TV streaming WGN's coverage of the Pipeworks Twin Peaks or Twin Pines Mall beer, and
Yeah.
Their
The
name
picture I
was-
have is a picture of a television with that picture on it. Just for proof of authenticity.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like the person holding up the
today's
newspaper.
newspaper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've definitely done a hallmark, trademark, self-indulgence for you and I, at least as part of the show. So that regular segment is now done.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. But I wanted to thank everybody. Again, if there's anything that's left.
Well, I said remind everyone of your accounts where they can
Yeah.
find what you're doing and
appropriate.
see if they can engage with you on social media. Remind everyone, and if there's anything else you want to say, now's the time. Who wants to start?
Say, well, you can catch me at Afro Beer Check on all the social medias, anything beer related, and on the bourbon side, you can catch me at the Neat Pour. That drop new episodes usually drop on Monday, but it wasn't one this week, but it'll be one next week.
Nice.
Got it. The Neat Pour.
The best places to catch me are at Beer Aficionado on Instagram and TikTok. And I would just say to anybody out there considering creating content that made it this far in the podcast and has always kind of wanted to do something in this area.
Make it shorter than this.
When you start off, you'll be self-conscious. You'll think people are going to judge you, and I get it. And I got to tell you, it couldn't be any more different. You'll be shocked at how just supportive people are. And there's like an old quote that I always liked is like, don't compare your day 1 to someone else's day 3,000 doing this. Like everybody starts out somewhere. If you have 500 followers for your Milds account, just say to
What a
yourself,
dream.
like, imagine if you had a party and 500 people showed up, or a mild release,
86
and 500 people came.
That's still pretty
That'd
good
be-
for
that'd
Milds.
still be pretty good.
Yeah.
So
You had 80 people lined up to drink mild and donuts.
It's true.
I think that perspective is helpful, and I would recommend keeping that in mind.
Awesome.
You
Touch it.
can catch me on Instagram and TikTok at Chicago Beer. Pretty easy there, I guess. And for me, just have fun with it. This is what it's supposed to be. If you ever find that it's taxing or it's something you don't want to do, then change it up. But, it's been fun this whole time and keep having fun with it.
Awesome.
You can follow Bottles and Cans North Center and Bottles and Cans Edgebrook on Facebook or Instagram. So, yeah, thanks for having me on.
And if I had any advice, I would just say, if you're just getting started, pump out
more,
content for
more.
at least 6 months.
Yeah.
And then look at your numbers after that.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember people are, if they don't engage with something, no one saw it. So just put more stuff out there and get more
Just
engagement.
keep pumping it out. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Great. Well,
Yep.
thank you all for coming on. I thought this was a fun conversation.
Yeah, thanks to everyone. Thanks to Chalonda, Wally, Doug, and Mike, and of course, Fade Master.
The fadist.
Yeah, the Fadist. And you, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.